Hi guys, welcome to Midnight Anime Library. Please give me the review on this audiobook. This will help me to know whether to continue this one or not. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. It really helps the channel grow. Your support means everything, so hit that button and let me know what you want to see next. Please ignore images. Infinity Template, Rise of the Strongest in the Marvel Multiverse Part 1 Chapter 1, Get the Unlimited Spell at the beginning. In the blink of an eye, the scenery before him underwent a drastic change. His surroundings transformed from a luxurious hotel to a dim prison, and the objects around him changed from several delicate bodies to foul-smelling, dirty ones. Just as Sumu wondered what had happened. Clang! The sound of a metal rod striking metal rang out, startling Sumu. His body instinctively trembled. This body was extremely afraid of such sounds, having developed a conditioned reflex. A moment later, several tall, muscular black men walked in from the light, handing out some turbid, viscous liquid into each metal cell. When it was Sumu's cell's turn, a black man was heard saying, "Huh, boss, this yellow-skinned monkey is still alive, truly a cockroach-like life." The bald boss, covered in ferocious tattoos, gave Sumu a cold glance, then warned his subordinate, "Don't touch him for now. The transaction time is almost here. If he dies, his organs won't be fresh, and the price will be greatly discounted." Yes, I know. Regarding the boss's order, the black subordinate quickly nodded and bowed, indicating his understanding. Then, he gave Sumu a ferocious glare, subconsciously rubbing the wound on his palm, and gritted his teeth, saying, "Kid, consider yourself lucky." Organ trafficking. After the few men left, Sumu immediately understood what was happening from their fragmented words. Afterwards, he felt an intense throbbing pain in his brain as a large number of fragmented memories flooded into his mind. The original owner, also named Sumu, was an ordinary college student who suddenly awakened his mutant ability a month ago, using it to escape from a burning house completely unharmed. Although he survived a great disaster, he did not have good fortune afterwards. A few days later, his parents discovered his mutant ability and, disgusted, kicked him out of their home. Afterward, he was pursued by a mysterious organization and was unexpectedly abducted by gang members from Hell's Kitchen, trapped in an unknown underground prison. And that black man was the one who captured him. During his resistance, he used his teeth to almost bite off a piece of flesh from the black man's hand. Because of this, he was subsequently given extra care by the black man. Looking at the scar-covered skin beneath his collar, which was festering and still slightly bleeding, it was likely that the original owner died because of this. However, this was not the most serious crisis at the moment. In a week, the gang would make a deal with other underground organizations, and their batch of goods would be slaughtered like livestock, and their organs removed. Furthermore, this world was a world he was familiar with, mutants, Stark Industries. Wasn't this the extremely dangerous Marvel Universe? Even if he escaped the coming crisis, how would he avoid the snap that would endanger the entire universe afterward? Sumu didn't want to bet on a 50-50 chance. Moreover, was this a movie world or a comic world? If it was a movie world, there might still be a chance to struggle. If it was a comic world, Sumu instinctively shivered. As for the original owner's superpower, if his superpower was strong, then he wouldn't have been abducted by the underground gang. His ability was energy absorption, yes, exactly the same as Black King's ability. However, after the initial emotional awakening, the intensity of the ability greatly decreased. He couldn't even fully absorb the kinetic energy of a punch, let alone bullets or even mutant abilities. What could such a weak ability do? Sumu immediately despaired. He didn't expect to die just after transmigrating. He had been living well in his previous life, so why did he suddenly transmigrate? Amidst his intense unwillingness, a voice sounded in Sumu's ear. "Congratulations, you have awakened the Myriad Worlds character template system. You have obtained the character template, Gojo Satoru. You have awakened the skill 6 Eyes LV1. Name, Sumu held template, Gojo Satoru energy absorption LV1, 78/100ths can absorb most energy. Absorption speed and storage limit are relatively low. 6 Eyes LV1, 1/100th possesses 360-degree long-range vision, can perceive the flow of energy, and has astonishing dynamic vision, allowing the holder to perform precise energy manipulation. Template fusion rate, 1% increase character fusion rate to unlock new skills energy points, 0 when the template fusion rate reaches 100%, you will obtain a new character template. Sumu immediately felt a difference. He could see a 360-degree view of his surroundings, and his vision was clearly extraordinary. He could even see dust in the air clearly. Furthermore, there were some blue lines interwoven in his vision, and the end of the nearby lines was precisely the dim wall lamp behind him. It was obvious that what he saw was electricity, which was the effect of 6 Eyes being able to see energy. After experiencing the ability, Sumu's face lit up with joy, because the first character template he obtained was Gojo Satoru. Although after becoming 2.5 Gojo Satoru, the evaluation of Gojo Satoru slightly declined, it still did not hinder him from being one of the ceilings of the Jujutsu Kaisen world. If he obtained Gojo Satoru's abilities, even a part of them, he could easily escape from the prison. Most importantly, Gojo Satoru's abilities are cool. After obtaining the system, Sumu immediately gained confidence in his future, but currently, the most important thing was to escape the gang prison. Just then, he heard heavy footsteps approaching. He saw the black man from before walking over. He vaguely remembered this black man's name was Jim. Jim came to Sumu's cell, flashed a ferocious smile at Sumu, and whispered, "Yellow-skinned monkey, I didn't expect your vitality to be quite tenacious. I'll let you live one more day. Tomorrow, I'll give you a good welcome." After speaking, he unzipped his pants and poured a foul-smelling yellow liquid into the bowl on the ground. Seeing Sumu's indifferent expression, as if looking at a dead man, he suddenly felt extremely annoyed, and the wound on his palm was also throbbing slightly. However, remembering his boss's words, he still endured it. He dared not disobey his boss's orders, so he could only leave with a harsh threat and then departed. Sumu quietly watched Jim's retreating back, staring for a moment, then retracted his gaze. Looking at the yellow liquid scattered on the ground in the turbid gruel, although the yellow liquid was still some distance from him and did not splash on him, he still retreated a step and decided to also give this black man a good welcome tomorrow. Although his body was hungry at the moment, Sumu absolutely would not drink the unknown gruel contaminated with yellow liquid. He began to study his newly acquired ability. He changed his position, just enough to block the dim yellow wall lamp behind him with his body, and under the cover of a cough, he secretly exerted force, shattering the glass covering it. Hiding the glass in his sleeve, Sumu then used his finger to touch the lamp wick. Success or failure depended on this one attempt. After acquiring 6 Eyes, he felt he could control energy more precisely, and he also felt that his energy absorption ability had undergone some changes. When his finger touched the lamp wick, under the precise energy control of 6 Eyes, electricity and heat were absorbed by him, and at the same time, energy points slowly increased. Energy points plus 1 energy points plus 1 energy points plus 1 energy absorption experience plus 1 energy absorption experience plus 1 energy absorption experience plus 1. Time slowly passed. Sumu used his body to block the lamp wick behind him, continuously absorbing energy, and investing the acquired energy into the Gojo Satoru character panel. After several hours, the system underwent a new change. Template fusion rate, 5%. You have unlocked a new skill, Limitless. Congratulations, your skill energy absorption has leveled up. Chapter 2 Technique Reversal, Blue Limitless LV1, 1/100th interferes with matter at the atomic level, controls space. The closer an object gets to the user, the slower its speed becomes, never truly touching the user. Energy absorption LV2, 1/300th can absorb most energy, with absorption speed and storage limit being similar. When the fusion rate reached 5%, energy absorption also advanced to level 2, and Sumo immediately sensed the changes in his body. Firstly, the speed of energy absorption was faster, and his body could store more energy. Additionally, a new technique was etched deep within his soul. Limitless. Sumo immediately understood how to use Limitless. However, due to the low fusion rate at the moment, he briefly tried it and found that he could only maintain it for 5 minutes, completely unable to sustain it for a long time. This was a world of difference compared to Gojo Satoru's passive, constant activation. However, his goal was just to escape the prison, and at this point, his strength made success possible. There were still a few hours until dawn. To be safe, he decided to continue absorbing energy to achieve a higher fusion rate and awaken new abilities. Only then would it be foolproof. Just then, a strange man's voice came from beside him. Sumu turned his head and saw a middle-aged man whispering to him, "Hey, kid over there, you're a mutant, aren't you?" He looked behind himself and indeed found that due to energy absorption, the electric current was visibly being absorbed by his fingers, with tiny flashes of light at the points of contact. Although dim, it was quite noticeable if one paid attention. Seeing Sumu remain silent, the man immediately said arrogantly, "You disgusting mutant bastard, you must have a way to leave, right?" "That's right, after all, the abilities of you bastards are bizarre and varied, so it's not surprising for you to possess the power to escape. Listen up, kid, when you're ready to escape, take me with you, or I'll tell those gang members about your mutant identity. I'm sure they'd be very interested in mutants." Seeing Sumu still not respond, the middle-aged man grew slightly impatient, but for the sake of escaping, he lowered his voice and said to Sumu, "Damn mutant bastard, did you hear me?" Hearing the man in the adjacent cell threaten him, Sumu was unmoved. Instead, a barely perceptible curve appeared at the corner of his mouth. Due to government propaganda, ordinary people generally harbored ill will towards mutants, believing them all to be filthy bastards. However, they forgot that mutants possessed the power to easily tear them apart. Sumu looked up, brushed his white hair back with his hand, revealing exquisite azure eyes. He showed a brilliant smile. "Sir, don't be anxious, I'll let you out right away." The middle-aged man then smiled with satisfaction, "At least you're sensible." Stopping the absorption of electricity, Sumu walked towards the middle-aged man, then extended his hand through the iron bars and said to the middle-aged man, "Sir, please extend your hand. My ability is spatial jumping, and I'll take you out of here right away." The middle-aged man immediately showed joy. Indeed, this mutant was just a child, a slight threat would make him comply. He had already decided that once he escaped, he would immediately call the police to catch this mutant bastard. After all, reporting a mutant could earn him a good amount of bounty, enough for him to live comfortably for a while. As for the gang who captured him, he dared not report them. They were all ruthless criminals who killed without batting an eye. He was already busy escaping, so how could he dare provoke them? As for Sumu intending to harm him, how could that be possible? If his mutant ability was truly offensive, how could he have been caught by ordinary gang members? He must have an ability that requires a long rest after each use, posing no threat to him at all. If Sumu hadn't transmigrated, then what the man in front of him thought would have been completely correct. But at this moment, Sumu had awakened the system and was completely different from before. When their palms touched, an imperceptible electric current immediately flowed into the middle-aged man's body, instantly paralyzing him due to the powerful stimulating current. Energy absorption at LV2 could already achieve this level, but Sumu's goal was not to electrocute the man. Anyone who has often electrocuted people should know that electric shock injuries produce a pungent burning smell, which is easily detected by others. So Sumu extended his hand, used the energy stored in his body to strengthen himself, then used his other hand to grab the middle-aged man's neck and twisted it forcefully. Accompanied by a slight cracking sound of bones, the man's neck snapped, and he died instantly. It was late at night, and the slight sound did not attract anyone's attention. Even if someone heard such a sound, they would have thought it was someone cracking their knuckles. Arranging the man to look as if he were sleeping, Sumu sat back by the lamp and continued to absorb energy, everything as usual, as if nothing had just happened. The system's prompts continued: energy point +1, energy point +1, energy point +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption. Experience +1, energy absorption experience +1. After an unknown period, looking through the window beside him, Sumu saw that the sky had already begun to lighten. At the same time, Sumu, who had been continuously absorbing energy and putting energy points into the template, heard the system's prompt: template fusion rate, 10%. You have unlocked a new skill, technique reversal, blue technique reversal, blue LV1, 1/100th creates a powerful suction force centered on blue, with output reaching negative infinity, akin to a small black hole dot. Sumu's eyes lit up, and various ways to use technique reversal, blue flooded his mind. At this moment, his system panel was, name, Sumu held template, Gojo Satoru energy absorption LV2, 67 300ths can absorb most energy, with absorption speed and storage limit being similar. 6 eyes LV1, 1/100th possesses 360-degree long-range vision, can perceive the flow of energy, and has astonishing dynamic vision, allowing the holder to perform precise energy manipulation. Limitless LV1, 1/100th interferes with matter at the atomic level, controls space. The closer an object gets to the user, the slower its speed becomes, never truly touching the user. Technique reversal, blue LV1, 1/100th creates a powerful suction force centered on blue, with output reaching negative infinity, akin to a small black hole. Template fusion rate, 10% increased character fusion rate to unlock new skills energy points, 12 when the template fusion rate reaches 100%, you will gain a new character template. After energy absorption increased to LV2, Sumu felt a significant increase in the energy within him, and as his experience improved, the limit of energy he could store in his body increased again. He could now continuously use Limitless for at least 10 minutes and use Technique Reversal, blue multiple times. Sensing his current strength, Sumu was no longer in a hurry to escape. He wanted to give the gang here some surprises. And to properly repay that gang member named Jim. Just then, the prison cell door opened again, and several familiar gang members, with sinister expressions, entered the prison. Please give me the review on this audiobook. This will help me to know whether to continue this one or not. Chapter 3: The Blooming Blue Black Hole. Today was the day the gang was conducting their transaction. At this moment, they took out the keys to the cells, opened all of them one by one, pulled everyone out of their cages, and escorted them outside. Everyone understood what was about to happen and fell into despair. Some cried out in pain, some knelt and begged for mercy, and others threatened them. But in the face of all these reactions, the gang members showed no response. If they cooperated, they remained unmoved; if they didn't, they were severely beaten with electric batons. Soon, the gang members arrived at Sumu's cell, and that damned black guy was inside. Seeing Sumu look at him, the black guy grinned sinisterly and made a throat-slitting gesture of provocation. However, he didn't see a look of fear on Sumu's face. Instead, Sumu gave him a sunny smile, which greatly annoyed him. "Yellow-skinned monkey, get out now. Today's your lucky day." Sumu replied calmly, "Indeed, today is a good day." Seeing Sumu dare to talk back, the black guy Jim immediately looked gloomy. He walked up to Sumu and whispered to him, "You probably don't know this, but I've already told Dr. John that your organ removal surgery won't use anesthetic. You'll die in pain and despair." Sumu gave him a mysterious smile. "Perhaps you won't have the chance to see that happen." Provoked again, although he didn't know where this yellow-skinned monkey got the courage to provoke him, he was ready to teach him a lesson. Although he might be punished by the boss, as long as he didn't die, the punishment wouldn't be too severe. He immediately clenched his fist and launched a fierce attack towards Sumu's face. He had long been annoyed by that handsome face, especially the calm expression feigned on it at this moment, which irritated him even more. Seeing this, the gang members behind Jim did not stop him. They watched the scene with interest, ready to savor the desperate wails of that yellow-skinned monkey. However, what happened next shocked them immensely. Jim's fist stopped in front of the yellow-skinned monkey and could not get any closer. They initially thought Jim was just joking around and teased him. "Jim, stop playing around. The transaction is about to start. If we delay, the boss will surely skin you alive." Exactly. Hurry up and beat this yellow-skinned monkey for me. I can't wait to hear his painful screams. "No, I didn't." Jim looked at the man in front of him with fear. His originally dark brown pupils had, at some unknown point, turned into a deep azure blue, and even his pitch-black hair had inexplicably turned pure white overnight. And at this moment, he was clearly smiling at himself, but the cruel curve of his mouth and the mockery and playfulness in his eyes all indicated that this was all his doing. What on earth was going on? Jim thought of something. Could it be that the man in front of him was a mutant? At this moment, the gang members behind also noticed something was wrong from Jim's answer. After careful observation, they noticed more details. The veins on Jim's arm bulged, and his muscles trembled constantly, which meant he was using all his strength. And the closer his hand got to the yellow-skinned monkey, the more strangely it trembled, as if that space was severely distorted, causing the light to refract. Something's wrong. Everything happening before their eyes was wrong. They all thought of something. Could it be that the yellow-skinned monkey was actually a mutant? An inexplicable fear enveloped their hearts, especially when they saw the indifferent smile on Sumu's face. They all instinctively took a step back. Looking at the black guy who was constantly exerting force, trying to get closer to him, Sumu showed an encouraging smile. Come on, come on. Just a little more effort and you can touch me. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the smile on Sumu's face immediately disappeared, because Jim, facing unknown fear, actually wanted to turn and flee. How could Sumu let this black guy escape? He still had a gift unopened, didn't he? The energy within his body rapidly circulated, providing him with a significant boost in strength. Then, at a speed invisible to the naked eye of an ordinary person, he reached out and pressed down on the black guy's head, using the head as leverage to violently smash his body onto the ground. Bang! The black guy's head collided with the ground, emitting a chilling sound. Then, the black guy fell unconscious due to the severe impact to his head. Sumu naturally wouldn't stop there. He used his enhanced body to forcefully stomp on the black guy's 5 limbs. The immense force crushed flesh and blood, and minced meat and blood flowed under Sumu's feet, gradually spreading. When his right arm was crushed, Jim was already awakened by the intense pain, letting out a violent scream and struggling constantly. But how could he resist Sumu? He could only watch helplessly as Sumu crushed his 5 limbs, turning him into a complete cripple. Sumu no longer looked at Jim. The gift had been delivered, and that was enough, regardless of whether he was satisfied or not. Seeing the terrifying man in the cell look at them amidst the bloody scene, his cold gaze jolted them awake from their dazed state of intense shock. One of them immediately reacted and shouted loudly, his ability must have great limitations, otherwise how could Jim have caught him? Shoot him, you can definitely kill him. All the others immediately reacted, yes. Exactly, shoot. This group of gang members had clearly experienced many battles and were well trained. They quickly recovered from their panic and began shooting at Sumu with their rifles. But something despairing happened to them. A large number of bullets floated in the air, undergoing strange distortions, but they could not get even an inch closer to that terrifying man. It was as if the distance between them was not a few centimeters, but the ends of the earth. Limitless. How is this possible? Why isn't it working? What exactly is his mutant ability? Since he possesses such terrifying abilities, why was he captured by Jim earlier? They could no longer maintain their composure and could only instinctively pull the triggers, firing wildly at Sumu. But none of these bullets could get close to Sumu, and he even had the leisure to help Jim block the bullets. Sumu didn't want this black guy to die so easily, he wanted him to sink into despair and pain. Then Sumu looked at the constantly firing gang members, as well as the other gang members who had heard the commotion and rushed to support. Then he grinned, forming a mysterious arc, and casually extended his hands forward, bringing them together slightly. Technique reversal, blue. The energy within his body flowed in a specific manner, and a terrifying blue vortex rapidly formed in front of Sumu. All the incoming bullets were swallowed by the black hole-like vortex. Once all the charging was complete. Boom! A terrifying blue vortex erupted, flying forward at extreme speed. Whether it was flesh and blood or steel and concrete, everything was sucked into it by the powerful suction, disappearing without a trace. When everything settled, all the gang members in front had vanished, not even a speck of flesh remained. Chapter 4. Breaking out of the cage. Seeing the scene before them, the entire place fell silent, and all the survivors stared in shock. What is this? Can a mutant do this? Devil! He's a devil! The closest gang member tremblingly removed the scattered remains from his face, then screamed and fled into the distance. However, before he could take a few steps, he was shot in the head by the gang leader. The gang leader shouted, "Why are you screaming? How could he continuously use that kind of move? Let's all shoot at him to drain his stamina. Jello, bring the rocket launcher over. Everyone, don't forget, we must complete this job. or Kingpin will definitely not let us off." The gang leader's words immediately calmed all the gang members. They looked at Sumu, gritted their teeth, and began firing frantically. It was as if the person named Kingpin was even more terrifying than Sumu, who had just unleashed a terrifying blue-black hole. Facing the bullets raining down like a storm, Sumu did not dodge. The consumption unit for Limitless is time, not the strength of the attack received. He was like he was bathing in a gentle breeze, a cruel smile on his face, as he charged towards the many gang members. Energy strengthened his body, and various combat experiences from Gojo Satoru's template strengthened Sumu's mind. Facing a battlefield he had never experienced, he felt no tension or fear. Instead, the curve of his mouth became more and more pronounced. He pushed his right foot back with force, energy first transforming into cursed energy, then micro-controlled by 6 eyes to strengthen his body. Boom! His flesh and blood body crushed the ground as he charged head-on towards dozens of gang members. Hands, feet, various joints, all parts of the human body, under the inheritance of Gojo Satoru's exquisite techniques and the precise control of 6 eyes, became deadly killing tools. The gang members could not even catch Sumu's figure, and stray bullets that coincidentally hit Sumu were blocked by Limitless. Large numbers of gang members fell like cut grass, unable to rise again. Finally, Sumu arrived in front of the gang leader, a slight smile on his face, and slowly walked towards him with his hands in his pockets. Looking at the mutant before him, the gang leader's heart was filled with fear. The man in front of him had shattered all his impressions of mutants. How could a mutant be so strong? If mutants were all this strong, then why would they be like rats crossing the street, everyone shouting to beat them? I don't believe it, your ability definitely has some flaw. The gang leader roared at Sumu unwillingly, trying to dispel the fear in his heart with his shout. Just then, a gang subordinate brought out a rocket launcher and handed it to the gang leader. Seeing the rocket launcher, the gang leader's eyes lit up, and all his previous fear was dispelled by the rocket launcher. He snatched the rocket launcher from the gang subordinate's hand, then roared savagely at Sumu, "Die!" In a fierce flash of fire, the rocket launcher shot towards Sumu, then exploded violently at his feet. The gang leader trembled and laughed maniacally, "Damn mutant, damn yellow-skinned monkey, die for me!" However, when the explosion dissipated, clear footsteps emerged from the smoke, an arm reached out from the smoke, and suddenly grabbed the gang leader's neck. Ugh! A deep azure light, as profound as the deep sea, appeared first, followed by eye-catching white short hair, and finally, dirty clothes completely inconsistent with the former, along with large and small wounds all over his body. Under the terrified gazes of the gang leader and his subordinates, Sumu grinned hideously. Technique reversal, blue. The blue vortex gathered in his hand again, and amidst the gang leader's screams, it first completely swallowed him, then continued to fly forward at high speed, tearing a huge gap in the prison wall. After doing all this, Sumu ignored the people behind him, used cursed energy transformed from energy to strengthen his physique, disappeared from the spot, and rushed out of the cage through the gap in the wall, leaving behind only the remaining gang members who had lost their fighting ability and the many innocent residents whose prison doors had been opened. After Sumu left, the entire place was silent. Tens of seconds later, a huge cheer echoed through the prison, and many innocent people surged towards the gap of freedom. Hours later, in a very luxurious room in Hell's Kitchen, brilliant crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, illuminating the scene below. The leader sat in a chair, his face seemingly covered by shadow. He was a full 2 meters tall, with a burly physique, like a towering mountain seated there. At this moment, a man in strange tight-fitting clothes was reporting to him. "Bullseye, you said this transaction failed?" If it were an ordinary person, facing the man named Kingpin, they would have long been trembling all over, unable to even stand steady, but Bullseye calmly continued, "Like a machine, that's right, almost all members have died, and most of them don't even have bodies. This seems to be because there was a mutant among the goods this time, and all of this was his doing." The room fell silent again, until a minute later, Kingpin opened his eyes and said to Bullseye emotionlessly, "Can he be killed?" "As long as it's a person, I can kill him. Then I want to see his body within a week." "As you wish." At the same time, in a hidden corner of Hell's Kitchen, in an underground room, a kind-faced middle-aged man walked into the underground room, followed by several surviving gang members and survivors who had escaped from the prison. Upon arriving at the prison, Agent Coulson's kind expression could no longer be maintained. Looking at the twisted and deformed metal cages, the broken floor, and the wall with a huge gap blasted by an unknown attack, he couldn't help but ask, "You said all this was done by a mutant?" Everyone behind him immediately nodded, and a young innocent lady stepped forward, her face full of longing, and said to Agent Coulson, "That's right, he was a very handsome gentleman. He had unforgettable silver hair, deep eyes like a lake, elegant manners, and powerful strength. He was completely different from those irritable mutants, he was a true gentleman." Although the infatuated lady in front of him had a touch of embellishment, it still revealed some information about the mysterious mutant. He again surveyed the strange scene around him, especially lingering for a while on the huge gap in the wall and the pits in the ground, then murmured to himself, "An azure black hole vortex? An unknown powerful mutant, definitely reaching level 3, possibly level 4, and level 5 is not impossible." Just then, a low voice came from the earpiece hanging in his ear, "Agent Coulson, how is the situation?" "Director Fury, this mutant is very strong, definitely capable of being a member of your plan." Good. Fully investigate his whereabouts, and make every effort to win him over, striving to bring him into our plan. Please give me the review on this audiobook. This will help me to know whether to continue this one or not. Chapter 5. Spider-Woman rushing out of the gang's prison. Sumo identified his surroundings through the original owner's memories. Sure enough, the prison was in Hell's Kitchen. Confirming his location, Sumo charged in one direction. His mutant identity had already been exposed when he awakened, and now he was being hunted by the authorities, and the gang who captured him would not let him go either. Before killing the gang leader, Sumo learned from the gang leader that these gang members should be Kingpin's subordinates, and Kingpin was the underground emperor of New York, and Kingpin, whose business was ruined, would never let him go. Therefore, facing capture and pursuit from both sides, improving his strength was the most important thing at the moment. Because of his continuous use of Limitless, and using technique reversal, blue twice, his internal energy was already nearing exhaustion. If he encountered a pursuit team at this time, he would have no power to resist at all. Passing another corner, a transformer appeared in front of Sumo, and only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. Electricity was the easiest energy source he could think of, and it was also his guarantee for getting through the early stages. Six Eyes gave Sumo extremely precise energy manipulation. At this moment, he used his energy absorption ability to slowly absorb the current from the transformer, just reaching the limit of his current speed. Energy points +1 energy points +1 energy points +1 energy absorption experience +1 energy absorption experience +1 energy absorption experience +1. Looking at the continuously increasing energy points and sensing his body being constantly refilled, Sumo showed a satisfied smile. Perceiving that the energy in his body was almost full, Sumo began to practice the skills he had acquired. The abilities given by the system panel were initially only level 1, and had to be improved through continuous practice. For example, technique reversal, blue, the power of the skill Sumo released at this time was far from the power released by Gojo Satoru. Only by continuously practicing and upgrading the skill could he achieve greater power. With the system, if Sumo upgraded his skills to a sufficient level, he could even surpass the template prototype and reach an unprecedented level. Among the abilities he possessed at this time, Six Eyes could not directly enhance his strength. Energy absorption was being continuously practiced and gaining experience, and would be the fastest skill to upgrade. The uniqueness of Limitless meant that upgrading this skill could only reduce consumption, and only by raising it to a sufficiently high level could it undergo a transformation. So Sumo immediately began practicing technique reversal, blue. This skill had powerful offensive capabilities, but its current level was too low, only able to condense a very small black hole, and its speed was very slow. If facing ordinary people, it could easily crush them, but if facing mutants or other superpowered individuals, it would be very difficult to hit, making it a useless skill. With the help of Six Eyes, Sumo condensed a blue black hole the size of a ping-pong ball and continuously manipulated the black hole to move around. At the same time, the system panel gave a prompt, technique reversal, blue experience +1 technique reversal, blue experience +1 technique reversal, blue experience +1. Level 1 skills were easy to upgrade. Sumo concealed himself in the substation, continuously absorbing electricity and practicing technique reversal, blue. After 3 hours, the system panel gave a prompt: technique reversal, blue experience +1, technique reversal, blue experience +1. Congratulations, technique reversal, blue has leveled up. Technique reversal, blue LV2, 1/300th creates a powerful suction force centered on blue, with maximum output reaching negative infinity, similar to a small black hole. The moment he leveled up, Sumo immediately perceived new ways to use technique reversal, blue in his mind. Although the skill description had not changed, its power was completely different, undergoing a huge transformation. After the skill upgrade was complete, Sumo was about to test the changes in the upgraded skill when he suddenly heard the sound of a gun being cocked behind him. "Hey, you unlucky guy in front, hand over all your money, or you'll get a taste of this gun." Through 6 eyes, Sumo had already sensed the man approaching behind him and had already released Limitless. He calmly turned around. At this moment, a middle-aged disheveled man was holding a pistol aimed at him, clearly intending to rob him, which was also a characteristic of the United States. The middle-aged man had originally planned to try his luck nearby today, and he didn't expect to actually find a prey. He immediately stepped forward, cocked the gun, and ordered the man in front of him to hand over all his money. He had originally thought of taking the money and leaving immediately, but when he saw Sumu's specific appearance, the middle-aged man was stunned, then licked his lips and smiled lewdly. "I've changed my mind. Not only do you have to hand over all your money, but you also have to face the wall and hold it for me." Hearing the middle-aged disheveled man's words, Sumu immediately couldn't stand it. He had originally wanted to use the middle-aged man to test his newly acquired skill, but now he thought it was better to just get rid of him directly. Just as Sumu was about to release technique reversal, blue, a violent whooshing sound suddenly came from the side. Then he saw a slender figure in a black and white tight suit, wearing a hood, swinging over from a distance with a web, and then kicking the middle-aged disheveled man flying. While the middle-aged disheveled man was flying, several webs arrived first, wrapping him up, and then hanging him on a nearby street lamp. The hooded girl had one side of her body adsorbed to the wall of the house, and the other side naturally hanging down, and she said to Sumu, "Sir, are you all right? You don't have to thank me, I'm New York's friendly neighborhood, Spider-Woman." Spider-Woman. Upon seeing this graceful figure, Sumu immediately recognized her identity. Wasn't this Gwen Spider? Why wasn't Spider-Man Peter Parker, but Gwen Stacy? Could it be that this world was not the movie universe, but some unknown parallel universe? While Sumu was pondering, Gwen, seeing that Sumu hadn't answered, couldn't help but worry about this gentleman. Could he be injured? When she got closer, she indeed found that this gentleman had scars of all sizes on his body. Although most of them had already healed, they still looked hideous. So she continued, "Sir, you're injured. Would you like me to take you to the hospital?" Sumu still had a good impression of Gwen. When watching Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, he had developed a liking for this strong and brave Spider-Woman. No need, I'm fine. But seeing Sumu refuse her help, just as Gwen was about to say something more, her spider sense activated. Danger! She subconsciously wanted to grab the gentleman in front of her and take him to a safe place, but when she swung away with her web, she suddenly found that she couldn't grab him. What on earth was going on? Then she heard the sound of walls breaking and houses collapsing. Oh, damn it! Seeing the massive lizard completely destroy the substation, Gwen didn't think the gentleman could survive the lizard's attack. Because of her carelessness, an innocent gentleman had died. He looked very young, only a few years older than herself. Chapter 6 Beat Up the Lizard Man. Gwen stared furiously at the giant lizard monster. "Dr. Connors, this time I'm definitely going to defeat you and bring you to justice." Spider-Woman attacked the lizard. Although the lizard's strength could easily snap concrete pillars, he was helpless against the agile Spider-Woman and could only endure Gwen's attacks. However, even though Gwen's attacks consistently hit the lizard, they couldn't cause effective damage. The lizard had thick skin, tough flesh, and regenerative abilities. Even against Gwen's attacks, which could kill an ordinary person with one punch, he sustained no significant injuries. Even minor injuries quickly healed under his regenerative ability. In her anger, Gwen's strength did increase, but her stamina also depleted extremely quickly, and she soon became breathless. As her stamina dropped, her speed and strength also began to decline, and she gradually fell into a disadvantage. Suddenly, the lizard seized an opening from Gwen, immediately grabbed one of her legs, and flung her away. With a loud crash, she slammed into a nearby dilapidated wall, creating a human-shaped indentation. At this time, Gwen had only recently gained her extraordinary abilities. Such a heavy blow caused intense pain, leaving her unable to recover. She struggled to stand up, but a terrifying green figure had already appeared before her, blocking the dim streetlights and leaving only a lightless shadow. A piercing whooshing sound came, and Gwen was kicked away again. This time, she completely lost the power to resist. Heavy footsteps approached. Gwen struggled to lift her head, trying to get up, but to no avail. She despairingly watched the lizard slowly approach, the fear of death engulfing her. Dr. Connors, who had turned into the lizard, had completely lost his humanity. She didn't believe Dr. Connors would let her go. Am I going to die just after gaining extraordinary abilities? No, I don't want to die. But the intense pain from all over her body and her uncontrollable limbs told her that she had no power left to resist. She was about to sink into the abyss of death, just like the master from earlier. Just then, a voice suddenly came from a distance. The master of this voice should have died, leading Gwen to think she was hallucinating. However, seeing the lizard stop in his tracks, she knew she hadn't heard wrong. The master from earlier wasn't dead. How was this possible? But the subsequent voice still confirmed her guess, even though this guess seemed impossible. I said, "Did you not hear me, ugly monster?" Seeing the lizard turn and look at him, Sumu curved his lips into a sinister smile. You attacked me directly, do you think I'm easy to bully? The lizard looked at Sumu with some confusion. How did the ant from earlier suddenly come back to life? Professor Connors himself had extremely high intelligence, but after transforming into the lizard, he became a monster with low intelligence, and he was more skilled at instinctive destruction than thinking. Seeing Sumu revive, he only paused briefly before immediately charging towards Sumu, wanting to tear the ant before him to shreds. Gwen saw this scene. Although she didn't understand how this master had escaped the previous attack, she believed that this master was definitely no match for the lizard. So she immediately warned, "Run." But what happened next made her eyes widen in disbelief. Roar! The lizard roared and charged towards Sumu. The lizard's body looked quite bulky, but his speed wasn't slow, he only appeared clumsy compared to the agile Spider-Woman. In reality, his speed, agility, and reaction capabilities could rival Spider-Woman's, his large body merely hindered his speed. However, this wasn't without benefit. His large body reduced his speed but also increased his strength. As he charged towards Sumu, Sumu felt as if he was facing a charging truck. But it was just a truck. Sumu extended one hand forward. The surrounding space continuously overlapped, reaching a limitless extent, preventing all objects from approaching him. Limitless. Under Gwen's gaze, the huge lizard was about to collide with that poor master. With that master's slender body, he would surely be crushed into a pulp. She couldn't bear to watch what was about to happen. However, she saw that master extend his hand, blocking in front of him. That slender arm, facing the giant lizard, seemed as fragile as a chopstick. But it was this slender arm that prevented the lizard from advancing an inch. What on world happened? What's wrong with this world? Why do I suddenly not recognize it? Gwen repeatedly asked these questions. Looking at the lizard, who was constantly attacking him up close but couldn't advance even an inch, Sumu showed him a brilliant smile. Come on, if you try harder, maybe you can touch me. How could the lizard endure such provocation? He unleashed even greater strength, his muscles bulging and tensing, delivering his strongest blow. But still no effect. Just a short distance of a few centimeters felt like an entire world separating them, completely unreachable. After playing with the lizard for a while, Sumu also lost patience. His energy converted into pure cursed energy, pervading his entire body. He was going to end this battle. Given Sumu's current template fusion level, even with cursed energy enhancing his body, he was no match for the lizard. However, with the assistance of 6 eyes, the lizard was merely a large punching bag. Limitless remained active, preventing the lizard from touching Sumu in the slightest, yet Sumu could freely touch the lizard. His cursed energy-enhanced attacks struck the lizard. To Gwen's shocked gaze, that seemingly frail master was brutally beating the lizard, completely suppressing him. Like a bodybuilder, every one of Sumu's movements was incredibly cool and surprisingly lethal. Bang! His foot collided with the lizard's chest, sending the lizard flying backward, crashing through several walls, and finally falling to the ground. However, he immediately got back up. Even though Sumu's previous attack had caused him significant damage, it instantly healed under his terrifying regenerative ability, having no noticeable effect. Gwen's eyes, which had been filled with hope again, dimmed once more. That's right, she was defeated by this terrifying regenerative ability. Even if that master was unexpectedly strong, if he couldn't inflict fatal damage on the lizard, he would eventually be worn down by his terrifying regeneration. So she said to that master, "Master, Dr. Lizard possesses extremely strong recovery abilities. If you can't defeat him in one go, you might be worn down to death by him. Your damage needs to be faster than his healing speed to defeat him." Sumu ignored Spider-Woman and instead looked at the increasingly berserk lizard. After the lizard's injuries healed, he immediately charged towards Sumu. A sinister smile appeared on his lips as he mocked the large brute in front of him. "Do you really think I can't do anything to you?" He extended his palm, his slender, bony fingers slightly contracting, then his voice became utterly cold. Technique reversal, blue. Please give me the review on this audiobook. This will help me to know whether to continue this one or not. Chapter 7 6 Eyes Level 2 The terrifying azure vortex reappeared, devouring everything in its path. The moment Sumu unleashed technique reversal, blue, he immediately felt the difference. His entire body's energy rapidly converted into cursed energy and was consumed. The azure black hole, which could originally only coalesce to the size of a pineapple, had now expanded to the size of a basketball. Of course, with the increase in power, the consumption was also much greater than before. Despite the immense consumption, the performance of technique reversal, blue LV2 did not disappoint Sumu. The azure black hole swept towards Lizard at more than twice its original speed. Lizard instinctively sensed danger, but due to the close distance and the terrifying speed of the azure black hole, he was completely unable to dodge. Then, Gwen, who was observing from a distance, witnessed the scene before her. Lizard's body violently contorted, with large amounts of fascia and flesh moving towards his body's center, followed by a terrifying azure black hole bursting out from Lizard's chest, continuously devouring his flesh and blood until it was completely consumed. Even after completely devouring Lizard's body, the terrifying azure black hole did not stop, continuously devouring everything around it. Air, the floor, broken walls, and even a street lamp on the roadside. To her horror, the terrifying azure black hole was rapidly flying towards her. She was severely injured at this moment and completely unable to dodge, able only to wait for death to arrive. Facing Lizard, her heart was filled with unwillingness, but facing the terrifying azure black hole, she was even losing her ability to think. That terrifying azure black hole was simply impossible to stop, devouring everything around it. It didn't even spare her thoughts. Gwen's mind was blank. However, when the azure black hole was still several meters away from her, and its terrifying gravitational pull had already affected her body, the vortex suddenly vanished without a trace. She recovered from holding her breath and began to pant heavily. She had never been so close to death. And never so helpless. Is this truly a mighty power that humans can control? After unleashing technique reversal, blue, Sumu looked at the completely vanished Lizard and smiled with satisfaction. The improvement of technique reversal, blue, was even greater than he had imagined. This way, he could reach Gojo Satoru's level at around LV4 or LV5. When the skill level further improved on this basis, he would be far stronger than Gojo Satoru. Once everything was over, Sumu looked forward and saw that New York's good neighbor, Spider-Woman, had already fainted due to severe injuries. Observing with 6 eyes, she had multiple bone fractures throughout her body and minor internal organ ruptures, bleeding. However, Spider-Woman inherently possesses a self-healing factor, so even if left alone, her injuries would heal quickly. But the current location was Hell's Kitchen, and a major battle had just occurred, so many eyes must be on this place. Although Sumu was not a good person, he was unwilling to see a character he liked in his previous life die in front of him. 6 eyes experience +1 6 eyes experience +1 6 eyes experience +1 Along with the system's prompts, Sumu fully used 6 eyes to investigate Gwen's physical condition and precisely reset her dislocated bones with his hand, allowing her to recover faster. At this moment, Sumu thought of something and took off Spider-Woman's hood and mask, revealing a delicate, pretty face from beneath the hood. Short blonde hair, an exquisite face, indeed, this was Gwen Stacy. However, Gwen at this moment was even more beautiful compared to the Gwen who appeared in movies or anime. Just then, the Spider-Woman in Sumu's arms suddenly woke up, and seeing the handsome man holding her, she was at first a little bewildered. Once she cleared her head, she immediately jumped out of Sumu's arms, doing a backflip to land several meters away. However, her movements were slightly distorted due to her unrecovered injuries, and she accidentally sprawled on the ground, then immediately struggled to get up. After Gwen stood firm, she suddenly noticed the white mask in the man's hand, then touched her own face, immediately realizing that her true identity had been discovered. Oh no, what should she do? Why, after just becoming Spider-Woman, was her identity immediately discovered by someone else? Gwen was very confused at this moment, not knowing what to do. Sumu was a little surprised that Gwen had recovered consciousness so quickly. Spider-Woman's self-healing ability was not to be underestimated. He held the mask in his hand and said to Gwen, "I never thought the good neighbor Spider-Woman would be so young. You're still in school, aren't you? Why did you take off my hood?" Sumu tilted his head, then showed a brilliant smile. "Is it not allowed? I'm truly sorry. If you're unhappy, then hit me." Gwen, from Sumu's instant kill of Dr. Lizard just now, she already knew how much immense power the seemingly frail man before her contained. How could she be a match for the man in front of her? "Why did you kill Dr. Lizard?" "He only became bloodthirsty and cruel because of a mutated serum, but he himself was a good person." Gwen thought of something and questioned him. Sumu was not surprised by Gwen's questioning. She was inherently a kind girl. This was also one of the reasons why he liked Gwen. However, he wanted the person he liked to be kind, but he himself was not a kind person. "Because he wanted to kill me, then he must be prepared to be killed by me." Gwen wanted to say something more, but still didn't open her mouth. Because from Sumu's perspective, he was not wrong, it was self-defense. But a familiar elder suddenly dying in front of her still left her somewhat at a loss, so she said nothing more, only leaving a sentence before swinging away with her web. "Maybe you weren't wrong, but I think I should go." Watching Gwen fly away, Sumu called out, "Your mask." Spider-Woman's body stiffened slightly. She hesitated for a moment but still returned the way she came, snatching the mask from Sumu's hand, then leaving. Although she really wanted to punch that annoying smiling face, considering the disparity in strength, she decided against it. The righteous Spider-Woman thought to herself. Looking at the departing Spider-Woman, Sumu suddenly felt that transmigrating was also very good. At least he could interact with characters he liked from his previous life, and at this moment, they were no longer heroes only seen on a screen, they were living people, with their own joys, angers, sorrows, and delights. Sensing the remaining energy in his body, Sumu grasped a broken power line and continuously absorbed electricity. Energy absorption experience +1 energy absorption experience +1 energy absorption experience +1 6 eyes experience +1 6 eyes experience +1 6 eyes experience +1 While absorbing energy, 6 eyes was also continuously activated, granting Sumu precise control over energy. Therefore, 6 eyes experience points were also continuously increasing. A few minutes later, the system popped up a prompt box. 6 eyes experience +1 Congratulations, skill 6 eyes has leveled up. Chapter 8 Level 5 Mutant. 6 eyes LV2, 1/300th provides a 360-degree long-range view, allowing the user to perceive the flow of energy. Its astonishing dynamic vision enables the holder to perform precise energy manipulation. After 6 eyes upgraded, its 360-degree long-range vision was doubled, increasing from the original 200 meters to 500 meters. Of course, this refers to the range where he can clearly observe, precisely capture tiny targets, perceive the specific flow of energy, and possess extremely strong Dynamic capture capabilities. If it's a blurry sight, his vision extends even further, but like an ordinary person, he can only see without clarity. In addition, upgrading to LV2 also awaken another ability, X-ray vision. At this moment, his 6 eyes can penetrate about 10 centimeters of steel plate to observe the internal situation. Unlike the Byakugan, his vision is not monochrome, he can see things in color, and with extreme clarity. Isn't this? Having so easily obtained one of the superpowers he most desired in his previous life, Sumu suddenly felt a bit uninspired. Suddenly, from his expanded vision, Sumu saw several drones rapidly approaching his location. Further away, a fully armed military unit was seen advancing rapidly, closely following the drones. This was definitely not retaliation from Kingpin, nor was it the work of the gang, they wouldn't possess such sophisticated equipment. This was the power of the military, likely a secret unit specifically tasked with apprehending mutants. In a brief moment, the drones were already close. Sumu flashed a ferocious smile at the cameras on the drones, and then a deep blue black hole swallowed all the drones. Afterward, he used cursed energy to strengthen his body and quickly departed the area. Sumu learned from the original owner's memories that this unit included mutants who had joined the military, and their strength was not to be underestimated. Even with Limitless, facing various bizarre and strange abilities was not a guaranteed safety. He was currently at his fastest growth period, so there was no need to engage in a deathmatch with the military. What he needed now was to continuously absorb energy and increase his template synchronization. Once he awakened reversal technique, he would have no more worries. Note, reversal technique possesses powerful healing effects. Inside a hidden military base, numerous screens were displayed on the wall. Suddenly, several screens went dark almost simultaneously, indicating that at least several drones were destroyed at the same time in a very short period. Noticing this, a stern-faced, grim-eyed middle-aged man wearing a colonel's rank asked a soldier, "What happened?" The soldier immediately stood up and reported to the middle-aged man, "Colonel Stryker, a sudden change occurred during our apprehension of Subject 9527. The target seems to have undergone a secondary awakening, manifesting other mutant abilities." A glint flashed in Stryker's eyes, then he walked to the screen and said to the soldier, "Retrieve the images from before the drone was destroyed." The soldier immediately projected the images recorded just before the drone's destruction onto the largest screen. The drone was seen flying forward, and soon a thin, pale-haired man appeared on the screen. When the drone stopped in the air and angled itself towards the white-haired man grinned at the camera, and then a basketball-sized deep blue-black hole formed in his hand, flying rapidly towards the camera. The screen immediately went black, presumably indicating the drone's destruction. Switching to other drone recordings, the situation was the same. The unknown deep blue-black hole was extremely fast, destroying all the drones in the blink of an eye. Colonel Stryker's gaze was serious. He had some impression of Subject 9527 because his ability was similar to an extremely powerful mutant from decades ago. And that mutant was a terrifying existence capable of absorbing nuclear energy. However, Subject 9527's energy was too weak, he couldn't even fully absorb the kinetic energy of an ordinary person's punch, which was why Stryker hadn't paid much attention to him. He hadn't expected him to reappear now, having awakened other abilities. After replaying the footage several times, the image finally paused on the deep blue-black hole. This black hole's offensive capability was clearly very strong, easily tearing through metal and destroying drones. Furthermore, 9527 also displayed another ability, an extremely broad perception. He was initially waiting for the drones to arrive, clearly having detected their presence much earlier. And Subject 9527's change to white hair and deep blue pupils also piqued his curiosity. The recording played again, stopping at that ferocious smile. Colonel Stryker revealed a cold smile, then issued an order, "Apprehend 9527 with full force, he has great research value. Dispatch experiment subjects 1085 and 1086 to assist in the apprehension. 1080's XS space attack should be able to break through 9527's defense." After issuing the order, he muttered to himself, "A provocation? Then as you wish." 1407, Greymore King Road, Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, inside a hidden laboratory. Jean Grey handed a report to Professor X. "Professor, we've detected unusual activity from Stryker's unit. They seem to be deploying most of their forces to apprehend a mutant designated as 9527. 9527? For the same reason as Stryker, Professor X also had a deep impression of the mutant named 9527 by Stryker. This reminded him of the most powerful enemy he had ever encountered, Black King Sebastian Shaw. Thinking back now, if not for good luck, he and Eric probably wouldn't have been able to kill him. However, Subject 9527, a young Chinese man whose real name is Su Mu, had a very low ability ceiling and was an extremely weak existence even among level 1 mutants. His ability was almost useless. This also made Professor X not pay attention to him, nor did he immediately invite him to join Xavier's school for gifted youngsters. He hadn't expected to see his name among Stryker's targets now. Professor X understood Stryker. If Sumu had no value, he certainly wouldn't expend a great deal of effort to apprehend him. The current concentration of forces for apprehension surely meant that some mysterious change had occurred with Sumu. So he immediately used the Cerebro to locate Sumu, hoping to invite him to join Xavier's school for gifted youngsters before Stryker did. But why is Sumu's consciousness absent? I could clearly sense it before. One should know that even with Jean Grey, who possessed infinite potential, he could sense the existence of her consciousness. Could it be? Professor X suddenly realized something. Could the mysterious change in Sumu be related to this? And it could even block his mental intrusion, even preventing him from sensing it. Did Sumu actually have the potential of a level 5 mutant? Or had he already become a level 5 mutant at this moment? Thinking of this, Professor X immediately said to Jean Grey, "Exert all efforts to find Sumu's whereabouts. You must contact him before Stryker and Eric, win him over, and have him join Xavier's school for gifted youngsters. Sumu, he might very well be a level 5 mutant." Chapter 9 Space Attack. At the same time, a graceful urban lady crossed the street, entered a narrow alley, and finally walked into a room. In the room, a man wearing a strange helmet stood by the window, gazing deeply at the bustling street. "Eric, I've found new information. Stryker and Charles are both looking for a mutant named Sumu, but his mutant ability is only first-level energy absorption. I suspect his mutant ability has undergone a secondary awakening, which is why he has attracted their attention." Magneto did not turn around, still observing everything before him, especially the ordinary people without mutant abilities. Energy absorption, huh? Raven, contact Sumu immediately, before they do. A mutant that Charles and Stryker are interested in is definitely not ordinary. Bring him into the Brotherhood of Mutants. Sumu naturally did not know that due to his awakened ability, he had already been targeted by several factions. At this moment, he had already left Hell's Kitchen and, using the dollars donated by gang members, bought a new set of clothes and showered at a hotel. Because of his continuous absorption and use of energy to strengthen his body, even though he hadn't yet learned reversal technique, his injuries were still recovering at a speed far beyond ordinary people. Even some of the lingering scars were gradually fading, revealing fair skin. Donning a pair of round-framed sunglasses, he was completely refreshed, showing no trace of his disheveled appearance from the underground dungeon. He looked like a charmingly handsome man, standing at 1.90 meters. Bidding farewell to the female shop owner who kept giving him flirtatious glances, Sumu walked out under her regretful gaze. Because of being pursued by the military and the threat from Kingpin, he didn't want to stay in one place for too long. Opening the system panel, Sumu looked at the energy point column. Energy points, 3425. After several hours of continuous energy absorption, Sumu's energy points reached a massive 3,000. He immediately invested all his energy points into the system. The template fusion rate rapidly increased, finally stopping at 23%. The system's prompt finally sounded again. Template fusion rate, 23%. You have awakened a new skill. Reversal technique LV1, 1/100th converts the negative energy of cursed energy itself into positive energy, possessing extremely strong healing effects. He finally obtained reversal technique. After obtaining reversal technique, Sumu's survival ability would once again increase, possessing self-healing capabilities even stronger than Lizard. Upon acquiring reversal technique, Sumu learned from the information in his mind that he currently could not apply reversal technique to others, he could only heal himself. However, as the skill level increased, all of this would be resolved, even gaining the ability to bring people back from the dead and restore the essence of things. Just then, through 6 eyes, Sumu observed a figure rapidly rushing towards him. It was a burly man over 2 meters tall. He was currently disregarding the surrounding civilians, crashing through them, sending many flying. In a short time, the surroundings were filled with whales, and some civilians had even died. Further away, drones and most of the military had already gathered and were continuously rushing towards this location. The burly man stopped. His muscles were bulging, his skin was a deep gray, and numerous blue veins wriggled beneath his skin, continuously delivering energy to his strong body. He carried a dwarf-like small man on his back. Unlike the burly man, the small man was extremely thin, his body not even as thick as the burly man's arm. Sumu did not leave. Based on the speed observed by 6 eyes, the burly man's speed was far faster than his. Unless he mastered the advanced technique of technique reversal, blue teleportation, he would not be able to escape his pursuit. But unfortunately, the level of technique reversal, blue, was still too low at this time, and he had not yet mastered it. The burly man stopped about 10 meters away from Sumu, his bare feet sinking into the ground, completely shattering it and reducing his momentum. Numerous scattered stones flew towards Sumu, but before they could touch him, they floated in the air, unable to get even an inch closer. Seeing this, the burly man nodded and said, "White hair, azure pupils, and this strange ability, you must be number 9527, right?" 9527? Sumu was familiar with this number. Wasn't this a number from a movie? Why would this burly man call him 9527? Seeing Sumu's confusion, the burly man had no intention of explaining. 9527, don't resist. Come back with me. Colonel Stryker wants to see you. Don't make futile resistance. You wouldn't want to have your limbs twisted off and be forcibly dragged back. The burly man said it as a matter of course, clearly not putting Sumu in his eyes, treating him as prey that could be hunted at will. With that, he rushed forward and tried to grab Sumu, but when he was still a few centimeters away, he couldn't get any closer. Limitless. Seeing this strange phenomenon, the burly man's face twisted into a grimace, then he said, "It seems you insist on suffering. Just in time, before you join us, let me set some rules for you." Sumu slightly pushed up his round-framed sunglasses, revealing his exquisite azure eyes. He casually used his pinky finger to pick his ear, then placed his pinky, which had no earwax, in front of him and blew towards the burly man. In the burly man's eyes, which were about to burst, Sumu showed a brilliant smile, but his eyes were filled with coldness. "All right, let's set some rules. As long as you cry and apologize, I'll spare your life. That's the rule." Arrogant. Being so underestimated by his prey, the burly man could no longer tolerate it. He swung his fist and attacked Sumu, but it had no effect. Sumu lowered his sunglasses and slowly walked towards the burly man. Then the burly man felt an immense force pressing down on him, making his proud, massive body completely powerless against this terrifying force. At this moment, the military in the distance also arrived. They frantically shot at Sumu, but the bullets also could not get even an inch closer to Sumu. Just like that, amidst a hail of bullets, Sumu pressed the burly man against a wall, and as he continued to advance, the wall began to gradually crumble. "Aren't you going to cry and beg for mercy?" Sumu said indifferently. Looking at the enemy before him, the burly man finally realized that this target was completely not on the same level as his previous opponents. He was no match at all. Fear fermented in his heart, filling his thoughts in a short time. So he disregarded the plan and shouted, "Aren't you going to make your move?" The moment the burly man spoke, Sumu felt a familiar fluctuation. It was the power of space. Looking at the dwarf on the burly man, it was indeed him releasing the space power. An invisible space blade flew towards him at extreme speed. The space blade was incredibly fast, he couldn't dodge it at all. Splat! The sound of flesh tearing rang out, and amidst the burly man's sinister laughter, Sumu was almost cut in half by the space blade. Chapter 10, reversal of the technique. Although it was clear that a brawny man carrying a dwarf was definitely problematic, the space blade was too fast for even Six Eyes' dynamic vision to catch. Despite his best efforts to dodge, Sumu was still severely wounded, almost cut in half at the waist. He immediately reached out and pressed forward, using blue to create an attractive force behind the brawny man. The enormous attractive force pulled the brawny man, and the already shattered wall could no longer withstand the immense pressure, breaking apart. The brawny man was also sent flying into the shop behind him, causing many customers to scream. This uncharged attack couldn't harm the brawny man at all, even the dwarf clinging to him was well protected and completely unharmed. The brawny man got up, dusted himself off, ignored the surrounding civilians, looked at Sumu, whose chest and abdomen were profusely bleeding, and said with a cruel smile, "Foolish fellow, a slash from space. Let's see how you deal with this." With that, he walked towards Sumu, ready to fulfill his earlier promise to twist Sumu's limbs and then send him to Colonel Stryker. As for Sumu dying on the spot, it was impossible for Colonel Stryker to blame him. Colonel Stryker harbored extreme hatred for mutants. How could he be angry over the death of a tool? On a nearby rooftop, two groups of people were confronting each other. One side was Cyclops and Storm from the X-Men, while the other was Red Tank and Mystique from the Brotherhood of Mutants. They encountered each other while searching for Sumu and got into a dispute. Cyclops pressed his hand to his glasses, ready to remove them at any moment to attack Red Tank and Mystique with laser beams from another dimension. He said coldly, "Sumu is fresh blood for mutants, he absolutely cannot be brainwashed by you." Mystique stood behind Red Tank, dodging the rays that could strike at any moment. Hearing Cyclops' words, she retorted, "Mutants are a superior race, humans are merely ants. An excellent mutant like Sumu should join the Brotherhood, we will lead him down the right path." The right path means destroying everything like terrorists? Just as the atmosphere grew increasingly tense, Storm suddenly broke the stalemate. "Look, Sumu's situation doesn't seem good." Everyone present was drawn in by Storm's words. Their purpose for this trip was to recruit Sumu. If Sumu had an accident, then this operation would end in failure. They looked down and saw Sumu almost cut in half at the waist by the space blade. What? They hadn't expected that while they were arguing, their target was about to be killed by Stryker's subordinate. Even if Sumu's performance hadn't met their expectations, it was unbearable for them to see a mutant they wanted to recruit about to be killed. Cyclops was already preparing to take off his glasses, Storm's hair began to float, her pupils gradually turned white, and Red Tank assumed a charging stance. They wanted to save Sumu before the brawny man could kill him. Although such injuries were severe, there were mutants with healing abilities among them, and with the power of technology, as long as treatment was timely, he could still be healed. However, the scene that unfolded next made them stop their movements, staring in shock at the heavily wounded Sumu. He actually had other mutant abilities. The brawny man, with a mocking expression, slowly walked towards Sumu. He planned to break Sumu's limbs and then send him to Colonel Stryker. Colonel Stryker imprisoned a large number of mutants, many of whom possessed healing abilities. As long as Sumu had a breath left, he could be saved. As for dying midway, then so be it. Colonel Stryker wanted mutants stronger than him. A mutant defeated by him had no value. However, he only took a few steps before stopping, pointing at Sumu with extreme shock. You, how is this possible? Why have your injuries already recovered?" Just now, from a little distance, coupled with the dust raised by the collapsing wall obstructing his vision to a certain extent, the brawny man hadn't seen Sumu's exact condition. Now, as he walked out of the smoke and dust and approached Sumu, he clearly saw the almost fatal injury on Sumu's waist recovering at an incredibly fast speed. By the time he noticed and stopped, the last trace of the injury had completely healed. He looked at the white-haired man in disbelief. Terrifying space defense ability, attack ability as frightening as a black hole, impressive physical fitness, and now, the extremely strong self-healing ability he displayed. Is this really a mutant? Even Magneto and Professor X aren't that powerful. Could it be he is the legendary level 5 mutant? The situation suddenly reversed. Under the excited gazes of Cyclops and many other mutants, under the fearful gazes of numerous army soldiers, and under the brawny man's terrified gaze, Sumu grinned again. "I changed my mind. Even if you cry and apologize now, I won't spare your life. You. The brawny man looked at Sumu, momentarily not daring to step forward. His trump card was the space attack of the dwarf on his body, the only ability that could break through 9527's defense. And once that ability failed, he would no longer be 9527's opponent. He immediately lifted the dwarf on his shoulder with one hand, placed him in front of him, and roared at him, "Quickly release Spaceblade again. Kill him for me." Spaceblade clearly consumed a lot of the dwarf's energy. After just one use, his whole body trembled uncontrollably, and his face turned pale. But under the brawny man's pressure, the dwarf still released Spaceblade towards Sumu again. The dwarf's Spaceblade consumed a lot of energy, but its power was equally immense, and its speed was even more astonishing. This time, Sumu was already prepared, yet he was still hit, and one arm, along with his shoulder, was almost severed. But with the help of reversal technique, his injuries were recovering at an incredibly fast pace. This time, the brawny man witnessed the entire process of Sumu's injuries recovering. Looking at Sumu, who recovered from a potentially fatal injury in just over 10 seconds, there was no longer any will to fight in his eyes. He immediately threw the dwarf in his hand towards Sumu, while he himself fled into the distance, ordering the surrounding soldiers, "Stop him for me." The brawny man no longer had any courage to face Sumu, he chose to run away. Although mission failure would result in severe punishment from Colonel Stryker, there was still a chance of survival then, which was better than facing this monster. Looking at the dwarf flying towards him, Sumu used 6 eyes to observe. He could no longer release Spaceblade again. So he extended both hands, and under the dwarf's desperate gaze, terrifying pressure completely tore his body apart. A large amount of blood splattered and fell to the ground, and he couldn't even let out a scream. Yet, there wasn't a single drop of blood on Sumu's body. The blood that splattered towards him floated in the air, just like the surrounding floating bullets, unable to approach him in the slightest. Then Sumu looked in the direction of the brawny man. A large number of fully armed soldiers were frantically shooting at him, while the brawny man had already run very far. If he ignored them, the brawny man would surely escape, so he made a decision. He extended his index finger, aiming it at the brawny man, and then said faintly, "Reversal technique Hugh." That's it for today. Meet you in next part. Please give me the review on this audiobook. This will help me to know whether to continue this one or not. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. It really helps the channel grow. Your support means everything, so hit that button and let me know what you want to see next.